Ready?
1 second.
It's a recording.
It's recording.
Good evening, hello, and a very warm welcome to David's studios. What's the name? Did we settle on a name for your studios, David? Has it got a name?
Maybe
Blueberry Studios? Blueberry Studios?
Blueberry. I thought it was like Bad Mojo because it was the name of my old band.
That's
Bad
nice.
Mojo Studios.
Tennis Road Studios.
Tennis
'cause
Road
this show is
Studio.
all about tennis.
Yes.
It's Unforced Error. Two old guys talking about tennis and saying the things that the professional commentators and pundits don't dare say. And we'll be daring tonight to talk about the next big thing in men's and women's tennis. Has it arrived? Is it another fool's dawn? I know that's very close to your heart, David. I'm going to try and sneak a little bit of talk about the Russians, the ban being banned, and the Belarusians being banned from Wimbledon, and Wimbledon's being stripped of ranking points for that. And of course, a topic dear to me, Boris Becker being jailed.
Yeah, those are all very good conversations. So let's go to war.
Let's talk war. So yes, a thorny subject. Obviously, it's a terrible thing. Absolutely awful, especially for the people who are living it in this day and age. You thought this kind of thing was over, so close to our doorstep. Just to recap, of course, Russia has invaded Ukraine, wrong-footing many of us who thought they would stop shy of the border. And Wimbledon, I think it was quite out of the blue, decided that Russian players would not be allowed to play at Wimbledon, and neither would Belarusian players either. None of the other tournaments have done this. There's been talk about them considering it, but Wimbledon have taken the plunge. It was thought at first that it would be a kind of, the Russian players would have to denounce the war, then they'd be allowed to play. Crazy, I can't believe I'm saying this, actually, it's like a dream. And then, of course, the next big news, David, was about the ranking points.
Yes, it's unbelievable to think that we are at this stage of the world because nobody expected. Hello, Ivana.
That's Ivana, our legal expert.
Exactly.
Our stats lady too. She does a number of jobs.
Number of jobs, faxing, for example.
Yeah, we don't pay for each separate job.
Nope.
Purely on a freelance basis.
Yes, Ivana is definitely the one.
No permanent contract, but a vital member of the UFE team.
Very, very important.
Yes.
Well, going back to the conversation, the war took me by surprise because I think I lived a little bit in this dream world where I did not believe that a war of this type would come back to haunt the world. But to be honest, I was being a bit ignorant because war has always been there. It's just been far away from us. And now that it's closer, it somehow means more to some of us than the past.
Yes.
For example, the invasions of Afghanistan.
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, is it wrong to draw a parallel and say some people saw that as an invasion, Afghanistan and Iraq?
It was definitely an invasion.
I agree.
And
Not everyone does.
Yes, it was an invasion of a country that was innocent from the accusations that America had, which was we're coming in to remove
WMD. Weapons of mass destruction.
The weapons of mass destruction. And
they're still looking now.
They're still looking. They killed civilians. They made a lot of damage and killed children and bombed areas of the country.
Without UN backing, I think. The United Nations didn't back it.
Exactly. And now everyone talks bad about Russia for doing...
So when that happened, forgive me my memory slip here, David, but when that happened, were British and American players banned from tennis Grand Slams?
Definitely not.
Is that too much to make a comparison like that? One war is just and one war isn't.
That's exactly where we're getting at, and that's why I bring this idea out, because it's not really spoken out there, isn't it? We don't speak enough of.
No, it's the first time I've heard it.
Yeah, it's because what's happening is that the war is now at our doorstep.
Yeah,
and it means more to us now that it's closer.
Well, it's out of sight, out of mind, you know, those kind of wars. It's an awful thing to say, and I'm not saying it's right at all, but, you know, a war involving people who a different skin color. Oh, that's not our lookout. But they're all terrible tragedies.
Yes,
But we can control, I think, how we react to it.
agreed.
Wimbledon are saying that the British government put a lot of pressure on them to ban these players. But I just don't buy that. Do you?
Oh, not at all. There's definitely politics behind this, isn't it? There's something going on in the relationships between the UK and Russia and the rest of the world that is making these kind of decisions come out. Why do you think they decided to ban these players and other countries did not?
Well, it's just a guess, but I think virtue signalling might be a bit of it. We're all caught up in this wave of perhaps be this wave of hysteria when the invasion actually happened, which a lot of us thought would not happen. We thought it was all hot air from Putin, kind of a threat to strengthen his hands. But I suppose there are knee-jerk reactions when that happens. So it might be a bit of that. Why didn't other tournaments do it? They were waiting for another tournament to do it maybe first and see how that played out.
Maybe,
and as
yeah.
we can see, it hasn't played out very well. We'll come back to that later. But my take is, can you blame individual tennis players for the responsibilities of their country?
Absolutely not.
Should they be expected to speak out against the war in order to play in tournaments, or just generally should they speak out against the war?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because an individual does not have to get in war affairs and conversations to live their lives. Of course, they are in a different situation. They are professionals. They are playing tennis by contracts and relationships with different tournaments and countries. So, of course, they have to abide to some rules that we don't.
What about if it was a team tournament? What about if the Davis Cup was tomorrow? Do you think Russia should be banned from playing in that?
I think when it comes to team tournaments,
you're playing for your country.
If it's for a country, then it has a different meaning, doesn't it? When it's for a country. Because if that country is committing war crimes against humanity, then somehow it does not make sense to celebrate that country.
A big tennis tournament in Russia, should that be banned?
Well, it is already, isn't it? WTA and ATP have completely removed...
Do you think that's the right decision?
I like that. What do you like that?
I think so, because it is sports washing, really, that, this is showing off the beautiful Russia kind of having a tournament, whereas not that far away, the same country is at war through their leaders. So a great tournament in Russia would perhaps be used by Putin as a kind of holiday kind of advert for Russia, or an advert for how great Russia is at organising prestigious events.
Yes.
So yeah, again, maybe slightly unfair, because you would hope, maybe a vain hope, that some ordinary Russian people would be able to go to that tournament, get turned on by tennis and join this great sport, which should be a universal thing, not limited to players of a certain nationality. But I wouldn't object to that as strongly as individuals being banned by a major Grand Slam tournament.
Yes, it's not black and white. It's not easy to have answers to all these questions, and let alone as people that really don't study the politics of the world to the level that we should, to be able to talk about this. But at least from an individual point of view, more than a team, it's definitely a very unfair thing to do. And it's two of my favorite players, the Belarusian Azarenka and the number 2 in the world, soon to be number 1, and we'll talk about
we
this.
will have
why.
to. Yeah, this is
Medvedev.
Related.
Yeah, because now it's funny, isn't it? They banned these players, and then WTA and the ATP reacted by removing all the ranking points away from Wimbledon. So this Wimbledon, for the first time in history, if I'm not mistaken, will be the first tournament run without ranking points.
I think you're right. There have been strikes before. I think in 1972 and 73 there was strike action, so a lot of the top players refused to play. But I think this is the first time ranking points have been taken away. I mean, my personal take on it is that if Medvedev and Vika, Azarenka and players like her, and the Belarusian players, there's quite a few of those too.
Yes.
What is the danger of them speaking out against the war? We've seen, I didn't think Putin would invade Ukraine, and he did. People think he won't use nuclear weapons, but he's already invaded a country we didn't think he would.
Yeah.
So what is to say that Medvedev spoke out against it, or Vika spoke out against it? They don't have relatives there in Russia who, I'm holding up my hands in the quotation marks kind of thing, they disappeared. You know, it is possible. We've seen people protesting in Russia against the war who've suddenly, a man in a leather jacket has come over and removed them and put their hands over the cameras. I think there would be a real danger in speaking out for Medvedev and other players. There'd be repercussions for their family who might well be opposed to the war anyway. How is that progress? There would be more jeopardy for them in speaking out against it than for us speaking out against the war in this program. So I think that's a real danger. You can't blame an individual for the actions of the leader. Like a lot of English people were very annoyed that we voted to leave Europe. But if I ordered a plate of pasta in an Italian restaurant and they refused to serve me because our country had left the EU, that wouldn't be fair. You can't blame me for that, surely.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think this is a similar thing.
That's a very good point, the danger of the situation for Russian and Belarusian players speaking out for something that they should not be forced to speak out for. And I also see not only the danger, like you speak, but also speaking out against a place that you grew up in, that you have love and feeling for, that, you know, you're speaking out against your own country that has good things as well. The country is not only Putin's rules and tyranny, is it? It's more than that. I'm sure Russia is...
A citizen is so much more than their leader, isn't it?
So much more, yes. So it's completely wrong. And I am angry that Wimbledon made this decision and very pleased that they are paying the price.
I think it's a strong word, anger, but I agree. And you preempted my next question. Was it fair for the ranking points to be taken away? But before I ask that, just very quickly, I think, you know, there are other countries who have bad regimes at the moment, arguably. I'd probably get in trouble if I said who they were. But I think a few years ago, an Israeli player and a Muslim player, Palestinian player, played together in doubles and had real success. I've tried to research who it is. I think I know who it is, actually. It's an Israeli player. Answers on the postcard if you know, but they joined together, the two countries. One of them, a lot of people think it isn't a country, they deny its citizenship, Palestine. But what a great message that sent out, that these two warring countries, these two doubles players decided to team up, and that chance will be denied at Wimbledon. It is possible a Russian player and a Ukrainian player, instead of issuing a statement about their feelings of the war, issued their statement through joining up and playing the doubles, the mixed doubles.
Absolutely.
Or the doubles. What a great thing. Even that would be with possible consequences, wouldn't it? But they won't get the chance because these players have been banned.
Yeah.
Not everyone agrees with us. We've got a regular UFE person who thinks it is right that they were banned. I won't say their name because they haven't given me permission. I forgot to ask permission for it to be used. But other people were happy to give permission for their views. Steve, who appeared on this show before, it's completely wrong, he says. The players clearly aren't connected to Putin. It's a pointless sanction. And as for the ranking points, I'll ask you about this in a second, David. What do you think of Wimbledon being stripped of ranking points? It makes sense. If they make a decision at odds to the rest of the tour, then they lose the privileges of the other tour events. And you agree with that Wimbledon should have been stripped of its ranking points?
Absolutely. Look, the world number 2, Medvedev, is on the race to number 1. And the ranking points is one of the most important things in a player's career, because it comes with bonuses, it comes with privileges, it comes with prestige and entries even into tournaments. And to remove that possibility to the Russians and Belarusian players and let all the others earn points without... It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's backfired, hasn't it, as you alluded to earlier, in that very complicated ranking system in tennis. But Djokovic, who's very good on grass, had all these ranking points to defend. He won't get the chance to defend them now, so he's lost them. Whereas Medvedev, who's less good on grass, had less ranking points. So I think as a result of that, Medvedev is going to go back to world number 1, which is the exact opposite of what Wimbledon intended. They didn't want to give a PR victory in any way to Putin.
Yep.
But, you know, maybe Putin could drape his flag around Medvedev's shoulders against Medvedev's thing. So that's complete opposite of the hoped for consequences.
Yes, here's the irony of the situation, isn't it?
Definitely.
We're going to end up after Wimbledon having a Russian player as the number one in the world.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which he probably,
man.
isn't happy about from a PR victory for Putin point of view. It does seem unfair on Djokovic and players like that, though, who are going to lose out as a result.
Very unfair. I wonder what they're going to do next year. Are they going to regain those ranking
Well,
points?
I wonder when the ban will end. If the war is still going on next year, does that mean still no Medvedev? What is the cut-off point when they sign a treaty, which the Wimbledon committee, Tim Henman, political expert as we all know on the Wimbledon committee, thinks that treaty is fair to Ukraine. Right, Medvedev can play now. What is the cut-off point for them being re-allowed back into Wimbledon?
It's weird. It's absurd.
Well, if Djokovic divorced his wife and got a Russian wife now, would he be banned as well?
Yep.
Or if they found he had some Russian blood in him? When will this all end? Ethnic kind of profiling of players before when they're banned. It's just,
It's messed up. It really is. And it's disappointing. And from the most prestigious and ancient and symbolic tournament of tennis in the worall. Very disappointing. I think
it is.
Wimbledon...
I'm very angry about it.
I think Wimbledon is losing points because of this.
Yes, and all it had to do was nothing. Sometimes nothing is the best course of action. So, surely, in my mind, it wouldn't matter there's no ranking points. Would you be put off playing Wimbledon if they suddenly said there's no ranking points involved in it?
I think the ranking points are definitely part of the value of Wimbledon or any Grand Slam because it's 2,000 ranking points for the winner. But of course, me as a player, I would definitely play.
Would there be any situation where you would miss a Grand Slam without a good reason, such as a bad injury?
Never, yes. I think I would always play, even if there was no money involved.
I totally agree. They come round 4 times a year. So maybe your average player, you're not a Djokovic or Federer with a 20-year career. You might have 20 opportunities at Grand Slams if you work really hard and keep in the world's top 100. So it's a golden opportunity. I know that a lot of players' sponsorship are tied up with ranking points, so that might have gone. But Naomi Osaka has come out with a view about it, hasn't she?
Oh, again. Yeah, we keep having... I don't know.
You're lost for words, aren't you?
Yeah, I keep being disappointed with her choices. Does this say anything about her a little bit? Why wouldn't she tell us, Jim? Did she justify why she's thinking of not participating
Well,
in
it's on the
Wimbledon?
BBC Sport website very, very recently. I think it was sent to me by a UFE listener, James Turner. And it says, 4-time major winner Naomi Osaka, a top player, 4 Grand Slams, is not sure she will play Wimbledon, saying that without ranking points, it is more like an exhibition. She said that earning points was a motivation. The intention of this measure was good, but the execution is all over the place, she said. I feel like if I play Wimbledon without points, it's more like an exhibition. I know this isn't true, right? But my brain just feels that way. Whenever I think like something is like an exhibition, I just can't go at it 100%. I didn't even make my decision yet, but I'm leaning more towards not playing given the current circumstances.
Yep.
So that's
Very
that's
disappointing
incredible.
in my opinion.
Let me point out, she's not the greatest grass court player. I know her career is she's still very young. And, when you're very, very young, maybe your opinions aren't fully formed. God, that sounds patronising, doesn't it? But it's just incredible. She didn't play Wimbledon last year. I know she kind of took a break from the tour. Would she be saying this if this was the US Open who had banned Russian and Belarusian players? Would she be going, well, I've just lost my motivation for playing my favourite tournament where I traditionally do very well?
I think Osaka has lost her motivation to a lot of things these days, didn't she? I think it's very easy for this kind of comment to come from her. And disappointing, of course, but not surprising, to be honest.
In her defence, she isn't the only player. Cameron Norrie has also said, it's this is a real blow, losing its ranking points, and it will just be like an exhibition.
Yes,
but come on, you're lifting up the Wimbledon trophy, or you're a journeyman player. So.
It is. Wouldn't it be interesting if all would take the same stand, and then it would be almost like a strike against Wimbledon and their choices? That would come out and play really well.
Very good point. And I'd have a lot of respect for Azarka if she said, I don't care about the ranking points, but it's unfair on my Russian and Belarusian colleagues.
That would
It's not
be
their
the
fault,
right argument.
so I'm not playing, and it's a shame because I haven't won the Wimbledon.
That's not what
it's
she
top of my
said.
list, but she's just saying, well, it's all about me. You know, this isn't good for my career and my ranking points.
Yeah, it's pretty weird, isn't it? What's going on? But I would love if no player would play at Wimbledon. That would be fun. I hope that Wimbledon pays a heavy price for what they're doing. The rankings, hopefully, is just the beginning of something a bit worse than...
Yeah, and I think getting back to the point you made, I think a strike would have been good over that. That would have been a strike worth fighting for.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. Now we're at the French Open, which is actually starting playing so away from all this politics, accepting all the vaccinated and unvaccinated, and accepting the Russians and the Belarusians. It's flowing.
Yeah.
Respect to that, I suppose. What about our friend Boris? I was also very disappointed about the news. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, Boris Becker, who won Wimbledon at the age of 17, he's been sent to jail, sentenced in London, I believe. And he'll probably serve about 12 months if he's well behaved. But he was sent because he was hiding his assets. He was made bankrupt.
Including trophies?
Yeah, allegedly hiding those. I mean, this is the court's decision. So, you know, he might very well say differently, and I think he has said differently. But I mean, to me, it was a bit of a wrong decision because it costs so much to send someone to prison, and I do feel sorry for the people he owed money to. There was a gardener he didn't pay, but I think the case hinged on he had a property in Mallorca in Spain. That's Rafa Nadal country, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he owed a fair amount of money on that. So what happened was he faced jail in Spain because obviously Mallorca's in Spain. So he took out a loan from a bloke called John Caldwell, who owns a mobile phone company, a £1.2 million loan. And the interest rate charged was 25%. That's a lot of money, isn't it? You know? So I think that's almost criminal in itself. The debt wasn't paid back quickly enough because he struggled to pay 25% interest rate. So it was transferred to a debt agency who said, we are tied by law. We have to charge the 25% too. And so he's ended up in jail in London over a debt he owns on a property in Mallorca. So that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, the crime was kind of in Spain, so why is he sent to jail? And it emerged during the court case that he had £19,000 a month maintenance to pay for his two sons. What two children need £19,000 a month maintenance?
Christ.
So I do have some sympathy for Boris. And also, it's so costly sending someone to jail. We know that jail doesn't normally rehabilitate people. You go to jail and you learn how to forge keys from soap and stuff like that and just become a better criminal. So surely Boris must have had some skill he could have used in community service instead of going to jail. I can't think what that would be. And how are you going to repay all those debts if you're in jail and you've got no earning money? So I just think it's a bit ridiculous.
So it wasn't to do with taxes? It's jail?
He got in trouble in Germany because of taxes, but didn't go to jail. It's
Yes, it's almost difficult to have an opinion here. I do think that, of course, going back to conversations that we had before, which is not giving bonus to people just for being famous or being coaches for Grand Slam players. So, of course, if the law was jail, then the law is for everyone. Having said that, I don't know. I think it's a very...
Have you had any clients who haven't paid you? You've done some work for them, and
A couple, yes.
How'd you handle that?
I left and I never looked back.
Yeah.
But my jobs are not thousands of pounds.
No, still very annoying.
So as I was saying, it's difficult to have an opinion. I do think that everyone should be judged by the same rules and laws. So no bonuses for Boris. He was actually avoiding paying something that by law he had to pay, yes?
He had debts and
He
he
had
was
debts.
made bankrupt and he was hiding assets
He was
which could have been
hiding
used to pay
assets.
the people he owed money to.
Exactly.
Allegedly, that's what the court decided.
Yeah, of course. So this means that he had the money to pay assets that he had to pay, but he did not by lying about not having the money.
According to the court verdict, yes. For instance, you have this Wimbledon trophy and you must have known about it. And he was, well, do you know where everything is? I often don't even open my bank statements. I can't face it. So I'm probably not as in control of my finances as possible. And I think this was part of his argument. Look, I don't know about all my assets. I'm a bit disorganized. So you can either believe that or not, or even think, okay, I accept you're disorganized, but you should know about how much money you've got, where that Wimbledon trophy is kept. So the court decided he was kind of deliberately not being organized or possibly lying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that for a second. The disorganization is, I mean, a man of his caliber in terms of the money he earned, he should have an accountant. That is very
clear
but
you're
about.
Only as good as your accountant in that case, aren't you? What if your accountant is disorganized or just taking your money and not keeping track of your finances?
Yeah, if I'm a Grand Slam champion and I coached the number one in the world to 7 Grand Slams, I think I would have a good accountant.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're a good tennis player doesn't mean you're good with money or good at interviewing accountants and choosing the right one. And I think Boris was a risk taker, which made him such a great tennis player.
He was.
He took calculated risks at the right time on big points with a lot of pressure. And that risk taking, perhaps he took over into the business world, but he wasn't such a good businessman.
No.
And he was taking risks.
He should have not.
In a bad way and came unstuck maybe. But I think the punishment just seems a bit much. I mean, God, some political leaders take us into wars for no reason. They're still sipping their ginger beer and rum, aren't they? And still freedom. It just seems a disproportionate punishment to me.
If you come up with the idea of politicians making bad decisions, and I think we got a conversation that will never end because I am on your side completely. I have a lot to say about that.
It's good to share an opinion, isn't it?
Yes, I like that. It's true. Although yes, I love Boris. I always liked him as a player, as a commentator, as a coach. Yeah, so I think we're definitely going to be a bit biased for the feeling that we have for him.
I admit I'm a bit biased because I'm a big Boris fan. I'm not the world's biggest Boris fan at all, and I do ask myself, would I have been on the person's side so much if it was, say, Naomi Osaka, who was in similar problems with the courts?
Exactly.
I'd hope I would have the same attitude, but maybe I wouldn't. Maybe there is some bias there, yeah.
Yeah. I can already see all those prisoners tennis fans very happy to have conversations with Boris in the precinct outdoors.
Do you think prison has a big tennis fan population amongst
I'm
its
sure
prisoners?
there's a few fans.
I hope so. I think he'd be okay. It's a real shock. He's complaining that it's very dark in prison and that the food isn't very good. Surprise, surprise.
Oh my God. That would be one of my worst fears is food in prison.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat.
Oh my God.
And Boris likes his food, I think.
Oh, I bet.
But hey, there's two sides to every story, and I'm sure the people who owed him money, it'd be good to hear their side as well. They'd have a different take on it.
Look, let me say this. If Boris agreed for 25% of debt, then he should be complying.
He agreed 25% from a person who is a multi-millionaire who owns a phone company.
Wow, no wonder he's a multi-millionaire.
Who loves publicity.
Yes.
Who maybe helped him out because Boris was a famous person. Maybe he hoped he could get some bit of publicity and some free tennis lesson. I think, my heart doesn't bleed for him for lending him the money at 25%.
Yeah.
But if there was a gardener and it was his livelihood and he wasn't paid for work Boris commissioned him to do, then I think that's a different matter. I would have far more sympathy for that person.
Agreed, yes. Because gardeners, if they do their job, they deserve to get paid.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll just say this. If we were in the streets in front of Boris prison and some people were protesting, I would hold a sign with Free Boris.
Absolutely, and I would join you in there and maybe throw a few flares.
Exactly.
That's as far as I'd go, but I'd hope it would have some effect.
He's definitely a very liked character. let's hope he'll be free soon, because yeah, those kind of things are not as bad as wars.
Free
So,
Boris.
free Boris. Let's go. And so, for the last part of our conversation, we're going to talk a little bit about a bit more on the positive note, less drama, and more hope for a great future for tennis. Although, of course, we have here Jim, who is going to be probably the devil's advocate about maybe a player.
You know me too well.
Yeah. So I'm good for it. It seems like something is happening with tennis at the moment. And it's something that we've been waiting as tennis fans for a long time. We have to agree on that, I'm sure. Is the fact that there is one player on the women's game and one player on the men's game that somehow it's starting to show something truly special. Swiatek is definitely already showing. She's won a Grand Slam and she's on a 29 win streak, which is formidable. Shall we start there? What do you think about what she's doing, and are you happy about it? Do you feel that this is good for tennis?
Yeah, I think it's good to have someone to be shot at the top of the game. A figurehead who is on a winning streak. It's exciting. I can remember as a kid, Bjorn Borg winning 41 games in a row at Wimbledon.
Wow.
And every match was, is this the one? Is he going to lose this
one?
So
exciting.
And it was tense, and it's building up. Yeah, like Russian roulette. When is there going to be a bullet in that chamber which blows off the champion's head? So I think it is good rather than the revolving door of a different champion all the time. Of course, I'd be bored if that 29 winning streak is 300 games in a row.
That's what was happening with Federer when he started dominating the world of tennis. Became a bit less interesting.
He did, but he never quite did it at the French Open, did he? Losing to Nadal on Nadal's 18th birthday, I think it was.
Yeah.
So Nadal spoiled that. So yeah, I think it is good for the game that, you know, you chat to an old friend on the street who isn't interested in tennis and they would go, what about that Swiatek then?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a face to put to the sport.
Yes,
tennis,
it's a story developing as well. And, you know, we need stories again. We've been having some very short-lived stories of happiness with you, for example, and the English people with Raducanu.
With me and my Emma.
You and my Emma.
Yeah, that's easy for you to say. My Emma.
And some other players that have won titles and then disappeared. And also with the boys, you know, this so-called princes these days that we've been waiting and waiting for them the pretenders, great word. And, you know, I've been watching all the matches from Swiatek, and it's impressive and spectacular the way she's playing tennis at the moment. Body and mind, everything she has in her variety of tennis and power is wonderful to see. So I'm excited about that. And then we have on the other side Alcaraz, who did not win a Grand Slam yet, and I'm sure still very young, but already is making 18 or 19 and is somehow making magic. Even though it's not a Grand Slam yet, and we are finally on a Grand Slam, I wonder what you feel about that, because I know you're not so excited about Alcaraz, and I want you to tell us why not, and I'll definitely tell you what I think.
Well, going back to Swiatek first before I go to Alcaraz.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, at times she's been absolutely brilliant. Of course, there's the odd match where you go, oh, she looks almost human at times there. It's a small complaint, but I would say I haven't really got a sense of her personality in terms of what's she like, what makes her tick. You know, does she collect biros for a hobby? I don't really get a sense of a human. I just see this tennis machine hitting brilliant shots, which is great to watch anyway. Mm-hmm. But you know, I don't expect her to on the on-court interview to break into a medley of ABBA songs or do some magic tricks. But it would be nice to get a sense of her personality.
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses.
That's one of her favorite bands.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so
Federer was AC/DC.
Yeah, she likes AC/DC as well, and all those old 90s.
There you go. I'm learning about it. So
do you ever watch the after-match interviews? Because that's when
I don't, because they're often so boring. But yeah, I should have invested the time.
There you go.
Just a very quick question. She's the red hot favourite. She's more of a favourite with the bookies than in the men's draw.
True.
I've got hardly any money. I need to make some money. Can I put my life savings on her to win the French Open?
Wow, what a tough question. Yes, definitely. Okay. I think she's going to win it. And
if it doesn't work out, will you lend me some money at 25% interest?
I'll pay you the bus ticket home.
That's not a great deal, is it? It's better than nothing. I'll take it.
No, it's difficult to predict.
Who's going to get her if it's not her? Who's her biggest threat?
Nobody.
Osaka? She's
already out.
Oh, is she? I didn't know
she
that.
Lost
That's
today
shameful.
with,
Can you edit that out? I didn't know that. I haven't watched anything today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, well, her story about Wimbledon kind of overshadowed her losing then, really, isn't
it? Yes.
Wow, okay.
So, who's going to win? If is for what I've watched in the last 3 months, I say there's no chance anyone will even get close to beating Swiatek. She's in a world of her own at the moment, and it's a confidence. Jabeur just
she's been doing
wiped
well, hasn't
out by Swiatek a few days
final.
ago.
Yeah,
wiped out.
Right. It does happen, though, doesn't it? It does happen. They lose 6-love, 6-1.
Yes,
and
not
then
only
they reverse it. I mean, that happened to Swiatek herself.
And so let me tell you, Jabeur has been eliminated in the first round as well.
You just shock after shock. What is coming next?
So
you'll be saying my Emma is out next.
Yes. Oh, she was playing today actually. We know the result already.
Oh, okay.
I don't know who's going to be able to beat
but
the
this is the
Avalanche.
worry, isn't it? Say with Jabeur, she was informed too, wasn't she?
She was.
And yet she lost in the first round. So it's a question of peaking at the right time. And I think this about Alcaraz, maybe. It does worry me that ankle injury he had against Nadal, even though he won that match and won the final in an amazing match.
No, and won Djokovic after that match.
Yes, exactly. But, God, has he timed it right? That would worry me playing with an ankle injury. And say if he did win the French Open, is that going to jeopardise his Wimbledon and maybe his career? He's 6 months out?
Okay, but he does not have an injury. That was an ankle twist that was not as severe as it could have been.
He missed the next tournament.
No, he did it on purpose. To rest because he was winning and winning.
But he wasn't faking it in the match. It looked pretty...
Yeah, but if you won against Djokovic... Did you watch the match against Djokovic? That was madness.
I watched the highlights.
If he was injured...
Djokovic did well, didn't he? But Alcaraz blew him
Djokovic was playing really well.
Yeah.
I tell you, an injured player would not beat Djokovic like that.
No.
So I think his injury is out of the way. But there's things about his personality that don't connect with you, isn't it? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I can't even put my finger on it and articulate it. If I'm being really fussy, we've had years of Nadal on clay. And I know you can't choose his successor. I haven't got the right to do that. But then another Spaniard comes along. And I know there's differences. Alcaraz plays a lot closer to the baseline rather than standing back like Nadal does.
Has more power.
His drop shot is even better than Nadal's. And Nadal's isn't bad. Of course it isn't bad.
And side note, it completely ruins our drop shot choice.
It's out of date. Who was our drop shot choice? I can't even remember now.
It was Federer.
Ah.
And I think Alcaraz puts Federer in the corner.
Yeah. I don't hate Alcaraz at all.
No.
And it's great that such a young player, because you do not have young tennis superstars anymore. They come through at a later age. I just don't get totally excited about him.
And I will help you out and be even more... a bit more bold than... What's the word? I'm going to be a bit more aggressive than you. I think Alcaraz has this kind of... it's just this kind of personality that's just not the one that I'm looking for a champion that I want well,
I didn't know this, you kind of agree with me a bit.
Yeah, Alcaraz is definitely... And he grunts, which is not my favorite thing as well, and... I have nothing against, being a Spanish again, but it would be nice to be a new nationality as well. Something we haven't seen before.
He's quick between points. That's good. I saw him,
yes, he is.
I think in his first round match.
He is.
And the other player was ready to serve, and Alcaraz was the kind of other side of the court. and Alcaraz jogged into position. Now, can you imagine Nadal or Djokovic doing that? And he does seem naive at times. I've seen a
Good.
few times where he's obviously tossed up the ball too low.
Yes.
And
Yes.
occasionally you see him think, oh, that's a bit naive, but that's a good thing and it's only natural.
It is, yes. Okay, so maybe it could have been a different personality and maybe it can be a different nationality as well for refreshment. But the kid has too many positive traits. And even though he talks a lot to the box, which is something I don't like very much in players, and he grunts,
Yeah, agreed.
there is something in him that is so ultra positive. He does speak to his box, but he carries on. He speaks and he leaves and he connects again
Yeah.
to the next point. And then he's constantly pumping himself up, which has never been one of my favorite traits.
Yeah, over-celebrating.
Over-celebrating
points, yeah.
every point, which is tiring. But I'm starting to understand his personality and why he's like this. And now here's my question to you, since you asked me about Swiatek. Can he win the French Open?
Yes, I think he can, but I think it's going to be a big ask. Winning these massive events like Barcelona, it's over 3 sets. Djokovic and Nadal are proven time and time again they can pace themselves through 5-set matches and through 7 best-of-5-set matches in a row. They're just perfect. Peaking at the right time. Maybe they hold a tiny bit back in these warm-up events, these ATP 1000 events. Is that the right thing?
Yes.
Yeah, so if he does win it, it's going to be an amazing achievement. But if my bet on Swiatek comes off and you don't buy me a bus ticket, I might reinvest that before the final on Djokovic or Nadal. And by then I will know because they're scheduled to meet in the quarterfinals.
It's true. And then in the semis against Alcaraz, if he reaches there. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I can, because I can barely believe it because I read it. Question back to you is, who do you want to win and who do you want to see in the final this year?
I want tennis to change. I'm tired of Nadal, Federer or Djokovic. Even though I love those guys, I want something different. I want the history to be created, you know. I want Federer to beat Sampras before Sampras retires in a Grand Slam. That's what happened.
Yeah.
I want someone...
When Sampras was still very good.
Yes, I want someone to do this now. This is the time. Djokovic is still very up
To slay
there.
the dragon, to kill the
It
king.
has to happen. So for that to happen, I think there's only one player that can do it. And watching Alcaraz play, and it has to be him. So I want Alcaraz to win this Grand Slam. Even though I love Medvedev, and I like Medvedev more than Alcaraz, but I'm starting to think Medvedev is a bit older, and he does not have the game style that
I'm
Alcaraz
starting
has.
to think Medvedev is just a hard court, September to January player,
Maybe.
which is still a large part of the
great.
year, isn't it? If you can play on
Yes.
hard courts, you can play
It's
Davis.
great. It's the one you want to choose.
You can play the end of year finals.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But not only. Alcaraz shows signs that he has a game style that is able to beat anyone on any court, on any surface. And he's faster than anyone else. There's no one faster than that guy.
Yeah.
And then this power, and then defense, and then drop shots. And have you seen him at the
Yeah.
net?
He can definitely play on hard courts. He's good at the US
Yeah.
Open, Australian. I'm jumping ahead of myself, but with both Swiatek and Alcaraz, I do wonder about Wimbledon, how they're going to
Yes.
play. Are they going to come to grips, or are they going to be like Gazaka and go, nah, I think I'm
True.
missing this year. I'm sure Alcaraz won't chicken out, or Swiatek.
No, they won't. I like your questions, but one step at a time. We are at the French now, and this is what we have to concentrate.
Yeah.
Now your
exactly.
question, who do you want and who do you think is going to win?
Well, listen, the older I get, I always support the old guy.
You do?
I do. So I've warmed to Djokovic. I know I've...
You want Djokovic to get to 21?
that's another question in itself. I'll come back to that. But I've warmed to him because, I've criticised him over things like the vaccination thing. But hey, he spoke out about the Russian ban.
Yeah,
which I think is
immediately.
good.
He was the first one.
He spoke out about Boris. I know you
Yes.
shouldn't just like someone because they
He's always
agree
there,
with your
isn't he?
opinions, but I think he sticks his neck out. He's a bit different. He is unfairly heckled at matches.
Yes, he is.
He's not my favourite player in the world, but I feel sorry that he's nearly every match, he's the fans' second favourite player on the court. So he's only, inverted commas, won it twice. Maybe maybe it'd be quite nice if he
Won the French.
Yeah, Yeah, and maybe had a go at being 1-3 of Nadal as well. Nadal's
At Wimbledon.
Federer's been top dog and had more than anyone else. Nadal's been the top dog.
Now,
Maybe Djokovic's
you,
turn.
you know, I like your choice because I also have that respect for Djokovic and he's earned it. So if Djokovic wins, I'll be happy too, definitely. But I'm supporting Medvedev and Alcaraz because I want things to change.
I like Medvedev, and I like him partly because I'm used to him. He seems like he's been
He
around
has a personality that we're looking for.
He's been around a few years now.
Yes.
So maybe I feel the same about Alcaraz in a few years' time.
True.
You know, it's like...
Although Medvedev has more style, doesn't he?
It's like I'm not a fan of the royal family, but in a way I'd feel a bit sad the Queen has died because she's been such a big part of my life for so many years. And I feel this about Djokovic and even Nadal, even though they're not my favourite players. I do feel it's a passing of an era, isn't it, really, when someone such a big part of your life goes. So if you feel affection for them in that way.
Agreed. Ask me 10 years ago if I had the same feeling for Djokovic or Nadal. You grow to respect these players for what they do.
And I don't like change. I don't know about you. You probably embrace change more than me. So
we're both old hags, for sure. But in tennis, I want history to be made. I mean, it's been 15 to 20 years of domination by 3 players.
Yeah.
Although, if Federer comes back, I want to see him win another one.
Yeah, I thought so. I nearly asked the question, but yeah. So you want a changing of the guard until Federer comes back. Then one more. And then after Federer wins one more, it'll be, and I still want one more.
Yeah, exactly.
Always one more.
Exactly. Although if Alcaraz or Medvedev beat Federer in the final, I'll be happy for them as well. And here's one more thing for you to tell me what you think. If Alcaraz is what they're talking about, and he becomes the true champion that we expect him to become, what is going to be of all these pretenders after Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer goes? This Alcaraz is young. Will he dominate for 20 years?
Well, it'd be so demoralising for people like Tsitsipas.
It is already.
That they were going to be the next big thing.
I know, it's already happening.
And now they're just bit part players. So it almost will they turn into a kind of Burditch type figures who are just in the supporting cast for years. And how satisfying is that to make the quarterfinals and the semi-finals and then watch this person who started their career 4 or 5 years after you being on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Boom. The king.
Yeah, exactly. And getting all the top models and stuff. Yeah, would that be satisfying for them? I think it'd be very demoralising.
It's already demoralising. Tsitsipas is already lost against him.
So I feel sorry for Tsitsipas and Zverev. It was like their turn, wasn't it?
You were supposed to.
You know, they took
team.
They took a lot of bashings from the big 3.
Yeah.
So their reward was just wait long enough. You will be the next one. But it just wasn't to be.
It wasn't to be.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll suddenly have a revival, but I think it's very unlikely.
It's looking like it. And you know what's my favorite part of this episode today?
My shirt?
Absolutely.
Thank
Your
you.
shirt. How did you know? It's so.
No, joking aside.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Really?
I'm not joking. It's the shirt. So that's where I want to end our episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. God bless.
See you next time.